Okay, so I'm going to get started, and then the plan will be that this recording will go out to families sometime tomorrow, along with the slideshow and any sort of question and answer document that we create based upon the questions tonight. So my name is Meg Sullivan. I'm one of the coordinators for Nature's Classroom. I have done Nature's Classroom in some form for about 16 years. And then when I was a seventh grader at Fowler many years ago, I went to Nature's Classroom as a student. And so I have kind of lots of information and perspectives as being a student, as being a chaperone, and from running it. So as questions come up between now and the trip, hopefully that experience will help me be able to answer any of your questions. For tonight, if there's questions that you don't want to forget, you can feel free to write them in the chat. I likely won't get to them until the end of the presentation, but you can feel free to add those into the chat. And then if you have specific questions about your child's experience at Nature's Classroom and what it might be like, if there are specific things that you're concerned about that maybe like specifically relate to your child or directly relate to your child, then you can email me and I can talk through those with you at a different point. But tonight I'm going to go over the general information. Most of this information is the information that was shared with students at a meeting a couple weeks back about Nature's Classroom. And for those of you who maybe had other children who have gone to Nature's Classroom or you've heard about before, some of this information will still be the same. So some things will not have changed in the program. Okay. So the biggest piece of information for people to know about Nature's Classroom is that it's November 13th to November 17th next year, or in 23. So when your students are eighth graders is when we go. And we go to Groton, Massachusetts, and we stay at the Grottonwood campsite. And so it's about 30 minutes away, but once you get through the woods, it really feels like you are kind of away from it all and that you are having this out in the woods kind of unplugged experience. So one of the reasons why we do the Nature's Classroom trip is that we want the students to have this unique experience of learning outside the classroom. It works out really well in their eighth grade year. There's a lot of kids who may be going to different schools after eighth grade, or we're expecting them to be a little bit more independent as they're exiting eighth grade. So we want them to have this experience where they get to try out a lot of different types of learning. And so one way we make it unplugged is that there are no cell phones. So we don't allow any of our students to have cell phones while we're at Nature's Classroom. We also have them do class selectives that they select. And so once again, that's very kind of similar to a high school type of experience where we have the kids choose different classes that are interesting to them. And so a lot of them relate to science, some outdoor skills, and just different humanities topics. And another focus is on teamwork and just being part of a community, part of the Fowler community, and they're part of a community in their cabins and in different groups throughout the week. So we want to make sure that all students who want to attend have the opportunity to attend. So we had been doing the Flower Power fundraising. And the purpose of that was to reduce costs for individual students. And so we ask people who participate to let us know which child they're supporting, and that 50% of that comes off of their tuition. We might do additional fundraising, but we don't want to step on the toes of any other fundraisers that are going on with PTO or in different schools. And there is financial aid available and scholarships available, but Assistant Principal Snyder handles all of those requests. And so they have to go through him. And it's really just like an email explaining your situation and what you're looking for. Another kind of brief thing about the fundraiser is that we're going to send out a summary of each child, like your specific child's participation, sometime after vacation. Michelle Travers is my counterpart and her cat sidekick. I feel like as soon as I said her name, like the cat was like, "What? What are we doing?" Is sort of handling she handles all of the financials. So we're a team, and Michelle Travers is the financial one. So questions about fundraising and the organization of that and organization of payments really goes to Michelle Travers. So she's trying to summarize all the orders that have come in and make sure that each student who was supported gets credit for that. So she's working on that, and we'll get to you after vacation. And so we're going to subtract that final amount from the final deposit. There are some families who like to pay for Nature's Classroom all at once. And before you do that, we just ask that you double check with us to see if there were any fundraising that happened to reduce the cost. I should go over again. The cost is $450, and that's for the entire week of room and board. They get meals every day, and that's for the classes that they take as well. And so it covers that whole week, Monday through Friday. So a little bit about the trip, starting from like how we get there and what we do while we're there. So we leave Fowler on a Monday morning, and students arrive at Fowler with all of their luggage. So we expect them to get a ride to school rather than kind of wait at the bus stop with a bunch of suitcases and sleeping bags. And so we expect them to get a ride to school and drop off all their luggage. And then we leave on just a school bus sometime during A block or first period on Monday after we do the attendance and make sure everyone's here and make sure that nobody forgot anything too important. We put all of the luggage in a U-Haul, and then the kids get on a bus and we take the 30-minute trip to Nature's Classroom. And then we return to Fowler on that Friday afternoon, a little bit before dismissal. And students usually get picked up. We have parents and family members who are waiting for them to hear about their trip and gather all their luggage. And so we kind of do the reverse of what we did on that Monday. All the luggage goes in the U-Haul, the kids go on the school bus, and then we gather them up and we send them home there. While we're at Nature's Classroom, we have a schedule that we follow. Pretty much there's some variation that might occur depending on weather. But typically at 7 a.m., we wake up all the kids in the cabins. We encourage people to take showers daily. So they wake up, take showers, get dressed for the day. We then have breakfast at 8 o'clock. Meals are typically an hour long. And then after breakfast, they go out and do something called field group experience, which is really exploring nature and working together in teams. We then have lunch from 12 to 1. And then we typically have some classes, 1 or 2 classes in the afternoon. And then we have dinner. And then we have some sort of evening activity as well. And then we go back to the cabins. And then the chaperones in the cabins are trying to get lights out by 10 o'clock or earlier. What's really great about the kids not having cell phones is that they have no idea what time it is usually. And so sometimes it can be 9:45 and we'll be like, it's 10 o'clock, it's time for bed, and the kids don't know any better. So that's basically how our weeks and our days unfold while we're there. While we're at Nature's Classroom, we bring teachers from Fowler, paraprofessionals from Fowler to chaperone the students, and then we meet Nature's Classroom teachers there. So the Fowler teachers and paraprofessionals, we have meals with all the kids, and we are the ones who are supervising the students in the cabins. So we have rooms in the cabins or in the dorms. We're not in the same room as the students, but we have a room in the same building that we chaperone them. And the Nature's Classroom teachers, they do not stay in the cabins with us or stay in the dorms, but they do teach the classes, they do have meals with us, and they run the different activities. So we have 2 types of accommodations that we could be in. There's dormitories, which have a smaller number of kids in them in each room, but like a bigger number of kids in the building itself. And then there's cabins, which only house about 10 to 12 kids. So the bathrooms are private bathrooms, or like private bathroom, like shower stalls and toilet stalls. But a group of 3 or 4 rooms might share one bathroom. And so it's all Fowler staff who's in there. The kids might be on bunk beds if there are 2 to 4 people in that room. There's nobody who has a room by themselves. There's always at least one roommate, and sometimes up to 5 roommates. So in the dining hall, it's like family style dining in that we're all kind of eating the same thing. We have all you care to eat. So there's always kids who go for seconds and sometimes thirds. The meal process is like there's some entertainment. Sometimes there's some storytelling that happens. There's sharing that happens where people talk about some positives about their day. At the dining hall, they're able to accommodate many food restrictions. So there are gluten-free options, there are dairy-free options, vegan, vegetarian options. That is all available to the students on a regular basis. If a child has a specific allergy, you can let me know, and I will check with the menu ahead of time and see if that's accommodated. Recently, sesame seeds have also been something that they are very much aware of in terms of an allergy for sesame oil. So those are things that they're very much aware of. And then as a rule, it's a nut-free facility. So like none of the items are made with any nut products or nut byproducts. So it's all together just peanut and tree nut free. So the students at the meals, they take turns setting up and helping to clear the tables. They learn about food waste. They learn about like where our food comes from. And they learn about, making sure everyone gets their meal first, and then, going up for seconds and making sure that everyone gets their share as well. And they also learn just how to have conversations at a table without a phone in front of them, like how to actually engage in a conversation that maybe involves the whole table, rather than just staring at a phone and kind of eating mindlessly on your own. So some sample lunches. It's very typical to kind of like a school lunch situation where they're relatively kid friendly, with like tacos or chicken sandwiches or grilled cheese or pizza. And then there may be some vegan and vegetarian options. So like instead of like taco with like ground beef, it might have like tofu in it as another option. For vegan and vegetarian options. So for all of these meals, there would always be a vegetarian option as well, or a vegan option as well. So I mentioned something called field group. And so we go outside regardless of the weather. This past year, we had some rainy times, we had some cold times, but we go outside for it all. We're just dressed for the weather. And the kids get used to it. The first day that they're outside, they're like, it's cold. And then they think about adding another layer. And so we prepare for that and we get ready to go outside and whatever the weather. I think like the first day they really worry about like how they look. Is this like the most stylish thing I have to wear? But then when you're like, I just want to be warm, you're going to, put on your poncho and, put your winter hat on and gloves on and put like a couple layers of pants on and not really worry about how cool you look as long as you're comfortable. But we do different nature hikes and different games while outside in the weather. There's also a challenge course there, or a low ropes course. And so there's different low ropes activities that kids might work on in different groups. And here are just a couple of them. And then we also build in some free time for kids to just like hang out, relax. Sometimes kids just want to hang out with their friends. Sometimes people go back to the dorms and take a nap. There's a little playground there, and then there's a snack available always for kids who want to snack either mid-morning or mid-afternoon. And then the classes are vast. There's a variety of classes that they could take. Some of the classes we've had in the past are where kids are designing bridges that they can actually walk across. In some classes, they might be exploring along like the edge of a lake that's there. We don't do any swimming or fishing or boating or anything like that, but they might just look at the environment that's around the lake. There's ones that talk about survival skills, building different fires, and just exploring the nature around them. There might be some simulations, like building some catapults. There was one where a group made ice cream. There's another group that might just explore erosion and just look at water and how it affects sand, because there's like a little sandy beach there. And then there are dissections that are available as well. Nobody's ever forced to take a dissection. It's always an option, but nobody's ever required to do a dissection. We also go out at night, and so we pack flashlights. No one goes out by themselves ever in the woods, and particularly at night, we always travel with our groups and travel with somebody who is familiar with the area, with our guides. And so it's a really cool experience to just sort of be out at night and kind of see how our eyes adjust and what we can notice, what we can hear. And here are a couple of other nighttime activities as well. Sometimes our nighttime activities are indoors and sometimes they're outdoors. There are indoor spaces if the weather were to be like particularly bad. So if there's thunder and lightning, we're not outside. We might travel to a dining hall, but we're not doing any activities outside. If there were a blizzard, we would not be outside in that scenario as well. There's also a gymnasium there, a little place where we can have the kids hang out, where they do different activities as well. So a couple of important supplies that we kind of remind people so that they are aware of what it's like there. They got to dress for the weather. So kids will need winter coats. I know that, you know, 7th and 8th graders are not always wearing more than just like a sweatshirt and shorts as their winter attire, but everyone needs to be able to dress with a winter coat, a waterproof layer. They need boots because we go in the mud. We had students who kind of got suctioned into some mud and had mud all the way up to their knees. And so we were like, you need boots, you need to have a spare change of shoes, you need to be prepared for that weather. We need the kids to have water bottles. That's like the number one thing we're drinking while we're out there. We have juice and milk available sometimes, but like our regular activities are just like we always have a refillable water bottle and we're always refilling that water bottle. There are beds, like mattresses, that are provided, but there's no bedding. And so whatever kids are sleeping with, pillows and blankets, sleeping bags, those things, we got to bring those ourselves. And then we expect everyone to take a shower a couple of times while they're out there. And so anything that they would use in the shower, they need to bring themselves. So shampoo, soap, towels, they all bring themselves, bring that with them themselves. And I mentioned about the no phones, to give the kids this opportunity to like survive without their phones or their video games or things like that. So we don't allow any of those things. No smartwatches. They can survive without the outside world. And what I tell the kids is like, if your parents need to get in touch with you, they're going to contact me. And if your kid has a need, they're going to have to talk to an adult so that we can be a part of, like, if they're homesick or if they're not feeling well, they need to talk to an adult. They can't just go directly and give you a call. We also say no candy for a variety of reasons. One is that we are in the woods. And so we don't want kids having like candy and snacks in their bags because we don't want to encourage critters to come into our cabin, squirrels and chipmunks and mice and things like that. So we say no to that. And also because we want it to be a healthful week for them. And so there's not a need for, you know, that type of sugary substances. They do get like dessert every night. And that might be like cookies, ice cream sandwiches and things. And so we have moderation of sweets, but we certainly don't want kind of stockpiles of candy in their bags. So we will have a nurse that is on site 24 hours per day while we're there. So they are on call for us and they are just always around. They administer any medication that your child takes. So if there's any prescription medications, the nurse will know that and they'll be able to do that. And they'll be able to access it and provide it to them. So the kids don't take the medication or carry the medication on their own. We hand it off to the nurse and the nurse monitors that they take their medication. If there's any injuries or illness, the nurse is the one who takes care of those things. And also just monitors kids to make sure that they're feeling well. Now, if at any point a child has an injury, right, if it's like a cut or if they hurt their wrist or their ankle or something, the nurse would call you. And also if they are not feeling well, the nurse would call you and just like give you a heads up. So you might hear from the nurse at some point, or if there's a question about medication, like they'll call you. Now, while we're at Nature's Classroom, what we generally say is like, no news from us is good news. So we're not going to be sending you like updates about how we're doing. We might just be like, hey, we all got here, because we want the kids to be able to share with you like their favorite parts of the week when they come back on Friday. And we find that sometimes if parents know ahead of time of like what happened and they ask the kids like, oh, I heard you did this, sometimes the kids are not that excited to share with you about it. So we find that kids tend to share more when like the parents are kind of like, how was your week? And the kids can kind of go where they want to go with that. So no news from us is good news. The other thing is that we are with your kids kind of all day long, all night long. And we don't have a whole lot of time to be able to kind of send these updates and kind of create like any sort of daily overview. But if you have any specific concerns, if you're like, my child was really kind of worried about going at the last minute, are they doing okay? You can shoot that email to me and I'll check in with your child and be like, how's it going? And I'll make sure that they're doing okay. And I will just give you a quick update back. But we don't do any sort of mass kind of email updates. You can send letters and care packages to your kids. They enjoy getting that. Sometimes they'll send mail to you. It doesn't happen all that often. They have good intentions of sending you letters, but then they kind of forget to actually mail them. But you can always send them letters. They love that. And then make sure you make time on Friday to hear about their adventures. Right. But we will contact you. I will have all of your contact information. If there's a concern about illness with your child, right? If they're complaining about a headache, we'll send them to the nurse, and the nurse will give you a call if they're not feeling well. That way we know, if it's something that is new and unusual for them, or maybe it's like, oh, sometimes they do get headaches and they usually recover well after some rest and water and maybe some medication. If you have a child that is homesick, we usually try to get them through the first night or the second night that they mention that they're homesick. But if it's a recurring thing, if it's like they really are having a hard time adjusting or participating because they're so concerned with home, we'll probably give you a call before the child does and say, like, your child is homesick. They want to call home. What do you want to do about it? Because sometimes parents will say, you know what, just push them through, right? Like I know they might be homesick, but they're going to be okay. But other times there are parents who might say, you know what, just let me give my child a bit of a pep talk, and that will help too. So if we have a concern about your child just being homesick, we'll let you know. Or if there's like a behavior issue, if your child is disruptive, like repeatedly and affecting the ability to for others to participate in Nature's Classroom, then we'll give you a call and we might ask you to give them a little bit of a pep talk about that as well. So, but really, no news is good news from us. So some next steps. The first payment of $150, so it's broken up into 3 payments, is due March 1st. If you have any questions or concerns about that, you can reach out to Michelle Travers or myself with any questions or things you have about that. If you're writing a check, make it out to Fowler School. It is kind of a process for us to deposit checks, and we know that can be frustrating for parents, but we have to kind of gather checks together in a certain range, and then we have to submit them through the office, and then they go through central office, and then they actually go through town hall before they actually come out of your bank account. So I just want you to know that I know it kind of is a bit of a process before you actually see it. So if you have a question, be like, did you get my check? I haven't seen it come out of my account. Once again, you can reach out to us, and we keep track of, when we receive the check, what deposit it goes into, and we can give you an estimate as when it might come out of your account. And then if you have questions about financial aid, scholarships, just reach out to Assistant Principal Snyder. His email is dsnyder, and you can ask him questions. And then if you have specific questions about how your child's experience might be at Nature's Classroom, reach out to Michelle or myself directly, and we can help kind of talk through what that might look like. If you have concerns about a specific aspect of the trip and not sure if it's a good fit for your child, let us know. We can help you kind of figure out like what accommodations a child might need in order to be successful in the trip. And then lastly, there's like later steps, right? Things that we don't even, that we're not worrying about right now. There's a second payment that comes through in May, and then the final payment is in the fall. Now, if there, for any reason, something happens and you made some deposits in March or in May, but you can't actually go in the fall, let us know. We can refund that money to you. You just have to let us know in writing that you need a refund. So in the fall, you're going to get an old-fashioned paper packet of information to fill out. That's going to ask you about like some medical history or any concerns you have about your child, anything that we should know about them. And those forms are going to be due around November 1st. You're going to get a packing list in the fall. And in October, we ask students to let us know who they prefer to be with in different groups. And we try to, give students an opportunity to kind of try out their classes, right? See who they're friendly with, because we know friendships change even from 7th grade to 8th grade or over the summer. And then we say, like, give us a list of names of who you want to be with, who you want to be roommates with, who do you want to be eating your meals with, who do you want to be in field groups with? And then we make those groupings with at least one person from their list. Okay, so once again, if it's like specific to your child, I'm going to ask that you email us, because it might be just like more of a private conversation that you and I have. However, general questions, we are certainly able to answer for the greater good of the group, I will say. I'm going to stop sharing that. Okay. So if you have questions, you can put them in the chat. I don't know if you have the ability to unmute yourself. So your checks, you can send it in with your child. And they will find Miss Travers, or they'll give it to the homeroom teacher, and we'll put them in. If you'd rather mail your check, you can just mail it to Fowler School, attention to Michelle Travers or myself, or you can drop it off in the front office and just say, Nature's Classroom check, and it makes it our way. If you're giving cash to, just let us know if it's coming. Sometimes parents give their kids kind of a hefty amount of cash, and we sometimes don't get that until a little while later when a child finds it in the bottom of their backpack. So if there's cash that's in your child's backpack, you might want to give us an email just so we know to ask them for it early on in the day. Yeah, other questions? No, am I missing anything, Ms. Travers? No. It's far away, yet not far away.
I think you're good. Yeah, I think we're good. I think.
So we'll do another student presentation in the fall in their 8th grade year, just because sometimes there's new students. There's sometimes kids who maybe don't feel like they're ready for Nature's Classroom in 7th grade, but by 8th grade, they're actually like, yeah, I'm really interested in that. So if you think your child's interested, it's helpful for us and for our planning purposes for you to send in a deposit, just because we sort of count them as going, and then be able to give you the refund later on. Yeah, so it's been a lot of fun. I would say if your child's unsure, right, have them talk to somebody who's gone there. Absolutely. I think that those are what's more convincing for kids who are on the fence are other kids who have gone than for us as adults to be like, you really want to go. All right. So if there's anybody who missed the meeting and they were like, hey, what did they talk about? Rather than feeling like you have to kind of recite my slideshow, you can just remind them that this information will be coming out tomorrow as well. All right, I'll hang on for another moment. But if there are no other questions, then you can enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you all for taking the time to listen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye.